Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Siti Latifah from University Mataram. On behalf of our team, I am delighted to be here today to present to you about our recent study. Our recent study will cover topics about species composition, endemicity, and structure of Flora Malesiana in the urban forests of UDAYANA Mataram. I will begin my presentation with the research background and problems. Then I will look at the research method that we implemented on this research. Finally, I will close this presentation with significance of the research. Let me begin by explaining why this research is important to conduct. As Kub Usmana and Hikmat stated, that Indonesia is listed as one of the world biodiversity centers with 25% of the world's flowering plant species growing in Indonesia, reaching 20,000 species, and 40% are endemic or native plants to Indonesia, which are part of the Malesiana of flora. Considering the high endemicity of biodiversity, one of the partial approach efforts that can be made to maintain the existence is through the determination of urban forest allocation as a part of conservation of at least 30% of the total city area, as mandated in the Republic of Indonesia Government Regulation Number 63/2002, Article 27.d of urban forests can be utilized to conserve endemic germplasm in Indonesia. But in reality, most of the urban forest developing by local governments based on the own proportion and distribution of urban forest areas stated in central government standard without regarding to the characteristic of the ecological vulnerability of the region based on the type of ecological parameters. This can be seen in the practice of selecting plant species where many introduced plants are planted in the urban forest. Although each region in Indonesia has its specific species that's suitable to biophysical characteristics, Mataram city is one of the cities with the bioecological area of the Lesser Sunda Islands has given phytogeographically an identity of authenticity or endemism to the rich biodiversity in Indonesia. Mataram city has many open green area, and one of the famous area and becoming one of Mataram icon is UDAYANA urban forest. It's just like other urban forests in many cities, many introduced species with invasive characteristics have been selected and planted without considering the threat in the future. Therefore, it is important to obtain basic data on the structure, composition, and the endemicity of Malesiana flora in UDAYANA urban forest as the first step to determine criteria and indicators of plants species sustainability based on autoecological parameters, and those parameters become the purpose of this study. This research was conducted from January to July 2020 in the Green Line of Udayana Urban Forest with the area of 12,25 hectares. The material used in this study is tree stands and regeneration, as well as other habitats contained in this study site. The equipment used in this study include 30 meter measuring type, P-band meter, Haga hypsometer, GPS, talisys, stationary digital camera, and Microsoft software. This research was carried out through field survey to find out the types of constituent trees at the study site by using a comprehensive tree census method in sampling intensity of 100%, which include data on trees, poles, sapling, seedling, and undergrowth. Species of each tree was identified as well as the coordinate of each tree, diameter, and height of each tree was measured. Data analysis used in this research are first is for composition of plant species consists of a literature study to identify the origin of all plants found in Udayana urban forest. The second is important value index. The third is Ecological Index consists of Shannon-Wiener Index for diversity, Margalef Index for species richness, Evenness Index, and Simpson Index for concentration of species. And stand structure. Strand structure can be described by horizontally and vertically by describing diameter class and height class of the plants over the density. Research and discussions. First is composition of plant species. We found that 1,640 trees consist of 27 families, 59 genera, and 64 plant species, with most species found in the area are Fabaceae family, followed by Meliaceae and Myrtaceae and Anarcadiaceae, Cruciaceae, Lamiaceae, Malvaceae, and Sapidaceae family. Fabaceae family dominates the UDAYANA urban forest plant community and following by Combretaceae family. From 64 species, we found that the composition of Malesiana flora found is 46 species, or about 71.88%, and 18 species, about 28%, which are classified as invasive. Now it's about dominance of species using ivy. Terminalia from the table, we can see that Terminalia mantali has the highest ivy at seedling and sapling growth rates with a high level of control, while at the pole level it is dominated by Felicium decipiens with moderate control, and tree level in the Samania saman species with a high tenure level. Hilwan 2012, Kusman and Susanti 2015, Nurkotima et al. 2017 states that the highest ivy value is the dominant species. This shows that the species is more powerful than other species, while the species with the highest ivy value after the dominant species, or called condominants, are those that are predicted to replace the dominant species in the next successions because has the ability to adapt after the dominant breed. Second is about ecological index. First is dominance index ID at the various level of plants in the research location is categorized as low or close to the zero. This condition illustrates that there is almost no concentrations by a species, and while the dominant pattern of species in each growth rate is relatively spread out in the each species, so that the ability to control its species in the community is relatively balanced, and the preservation of species diversity can be maintained with certain ecological requirements that takes into account internal disturbance, invasive species, and external disturbance, human. Now it's about diversity index, H apostrophe at seedling level is 1,23, categories is low, while at the sapling, poles, and trees level, respectively, is 3.21, 3.61, and 3.52. The species diversity index is a value that indicates the size of the small number of species found in area and the distribution of various species and the environment that support these species at each ground level. The value of the species diversity index for seedling is less than 1.5. So this condition classifies as low diversity. This shows that the community at seedling level is composed of only a few dominant species. Now the evenness index value at the sapling level is the highest, which is 0.93 compared to the pole and tree levels of 0.58 and 0.90, while at the seedling level, the A value is only 0.21. Some reference state that the evenness value is related to the even distribution of each type related to dominant. The higher the evenness value, the distribution of species in research location is more evenly distributed, so that the dominant tends to be concentrated on several types, which means that the value of A will be inversely proportional to the ID value. The value of R1 at the growth rate of seedling is low, sapling and trees are categorized as height, more than 5. Species richness is used to determine the amount of plant species richness in a community. The value of species richness was obtained from the number of species found in the research location. Now, we would like to see the stand structure. The height and low number of individuals in a certain diameter class illustrates the condition of the forest that has undergone a change in stand structure, which affect the sustainability of the subsequent forest stand generation. And then the last is about the condition of the height, about the height distribution. In general, the UDAYANA urban forest stand community is classified as having 3 stratums, with the lower B stratums, then C and D strata. In detail, the highest number of individuals are in the height 4 until 20 meters. It's about 91%, and followed by high class, height class of 1 to 4 meter, 6.2%, and the last is 20 to 30 meters, is about 2.48%. This data shows that the UDAYANA Green Open Space community is a stand that is dominated by young trees that are still growing to reach their climate height. Some references that edit that the stratum C is categorized as a future trees. We come to the conclusions. The first is UDAYANA urban forest is composed of 27 family, 45 genera, and 64 species, which are dominated by invasive species at each growth level, namely Terminalia mantali, Vericium decipiens, and Samania saman. The stand structure in UDAYANA urban forest has experienced disturbances as evidenced by the horizontal and vertical structure that do not resemble the inverted J curves, and the canopy stratification of UDAYANA only consists of 3 strata. The dominance of invasive species plays a very important role in the community, especially the control of growth space, so that it affects the changes in the structure and composition of stand in UDAYANA urban forest. Thank you for your attention.